We, that is I, as a member of For the Two Voices, acknowledge the many people of African descent who are not settlers, but whose ancestors were forcibly displaced as part of the transatlantic slave trade, brought against their will and made to work on these lands. We, that is I, as a member of For the Two Voices, acknowledge the many nations of the indigenous people who presently live on this land, the traditional territory known as the Turtle Island, and in home to many diverse First Nation, Inuit, and Métis people. Thanks, Claire.
Thank you, Brian, for the acknowledgement. Now I'm going to introduce to you our group. 42 Voices is a resident-led grassroots group established in 2015 and is made up of community members in Malvern area. I am a student currently working with 42 Voices as part of my coursework for my university. 42 Voices collaborate with various community organizations, city agencies, departments, and academic institutions. Our focus is civic engagement and resident empowerment. We share information and acknowledge needs to advocate for residents' rights and find ways to engage with the government decision-making process. We'll encourage you to check out some of our past community projects, including the Malvern Food Tour event. We have hyperlinked them in the slides. You can just click on them to watch it at your own will. Next slide, please. Let's now take a look at the presenters today. As a grassroots group, all of this work is primarily done by our volunteers in the community. My name is C, and I'm going to join by Brian, who is a 42 Voices volunteer and a Malvern resident leader. We have Kiran, who is a high school volunteer with 42 Voices, and Schwab, who is also a volunteer and was a former intern with 42 Voices back in 2023. As we talk about election, we all know it's about various issues and what each party is proposing to address those issues. Feel free to let us know in chat what are your top 3 issues this election. You can unmute and speak if you guys want. These are some examples of the issues that's concerning people. Okay, if no one wants to share their thoughts, we might just continue. Next slide, please. So back in 2022, during the last provincial election, 42 Voices volunteers did various in-person outreach at different parks and bus stops. We set up a vote pop-up activity and talked to more than 150 people last time, since we had enough time to engage with residents, unlike this time where it's full of snow and it's a snap election. Then, as you see in the chart, many of them identified housing as their main issue, followed by healthcare and poverty. As you can tell from the news, those issues are still some of the top issues in Ontario. Now I'm going to call on Brian to talk about some interesting information about our electoral system.
Okay, thanks, Claire. As you have just heard, it is difficult to reach out to every single voter in person, but there are various ways to share information. So I have a quick question for you. What do you think the number of eligible voters are there in Scarborough Rouge Park? You can share your answers in the chat section, please. You can see there that is Ontario has a whole
I
more
would guess
than 10.
B.
Sorry,
I would guess B.
you guys B? Okay. I'm going through the chat section now to see. Okay, A, C. One more thought. Okay, the 5 more seconds. Last bet. Okay, okay. So as you can see, that in Ontario as a whole, we have more than 10 million people who are eligible to vote. So the the correct answer is C. There were around 76,000 people based on the data from election.ca. Now move to the next slide, please. Now another question. How many electoral districts are in Ontario? We can do the same. How many electoral districts are in Ontario? It is
I
important to
guess
note.
124.
Okay, you can drop the answer down in the chat section if you don't mind. Okay, 10 more seconds. Let's be snappy. Okay, so the correct answer is 124 ridings. So in each of the electoral ridings, one candidate will win and become the member of the provincial parliament, also known as the MPP. Another thing to remember is that you can only vote for a candidate in your own riding. The party with more winning candidates forms the government, and the leader of the winning party becomes the premier. Please, next slide, please. Now let me ask you another question. What is our electoral system called? What is our electoral system called? Anyone, please? We got no answer yet. Okay, nice. One more. Okay. I guess I'll just fill the things. Okay, the correct answer is first past the post. That's correct. In this system, you will just vote. You just vote for a candidate to represent the electoral district in which you reside. The winning candidate must win the most votes. They don't need more than 50% of the votes to win. So we have to take that note. You can learn more about the electoral system on the Unlock Democracy website, and we have included in the link in the slide. Now I'm going to pass it on to Kiran, who will talk more about key details about the election time and documents you need to vote. Kiran?
Thank you, Brian. As you
Yeah.
may know by now, the provincial election is on Thursday, February 27th. You can go to your polling station between 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. There are other ways you could vote if you think you'll be busy on the 27th. You can vote during the advanced polling days, which is from February 20th to 22nd. You can go to vote between 10 a.m. and 8 p.m. during advanced polling days. You also have the option to vote by mail. To request your voting kit, you can make your submission online using the link in the slide. You must apply by 6 p.m. on February 21st to receive your voting lot. Please note that your completed voting kit must be received by Elections Ontario by 6 p.m. on February 27th. Your kit will come with a prepaid envelope. If you don't like to mail it out, you could drop it off at your local election office. For Scarborough Rouge Park, it is the Malvern Medical Arts Building located at 1333 Nielsen Road at the back side of the building. Let's now look at how to find your polling station. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the polling station is where you will go to vote if you're going to vote on the election day. You will receive that information by mail. It's called the Voter Information Card, or VIC. It will list where you can vote on the election day as well as your advanced polling locations. If you didn't receive a voter information card, you can simply look up those details on the Election Ontario website using the link in the slide. It is important to note that on the election day, you can only vote at the assigned polling location. You cannot vote in any other polling locations on the election day event, even if it is in your riding. We have also included a link for voter information guide, which is available in various languages, including Chinese, Tamil, Tagalog, and Farsi. Now, let's do a quick true or false question. So, when you're going to vote, you are not required to take a photo ID as long as you have identification documents with your name and address. Now, is this true or false? You could either speak up or you could leave your answers in the comments. Couple more seconds. All right, the answer is true. You do not need a photo ID. Let's look at what you need to bring when you are going to vote. So, option one, if you did, well, next. Okay. Option one, if you did receive your voter information card and you take that to your polling station, you just need one more ID showing your name. It could be a birth certificate, Canadian citizenship card, or health card, driver's license, and so on. A full list is available on the Elections Ontario website, so feel free to visit their website if you're still unsure what document to take with you. If you did not receive a voter information card, you could follow option 2 or 3. Now, let's take a look at who is eligible to vote and how to check whether you're registered to vote. Next slide, please. To vote in the election, you got to be 18 years of age or older on the election day. You also have to be a Canadian citizen and a resident of Ontario. To ensure you receive your voter information card, you could confirm, update, or add your information to the voter register by February 17th using the link in the slide. Another important thing I wanted to clarify is that unlike the municipal elections, you can only vote once at your primary home location in the provincial election. Now I'll pass it back to Z to talk about different levels of government. Z, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Okay, thank you, Kiran. I'm going to start with a question. We all know that in Canada, we have 3 levels of government, which are municipal, provincial, and federal. Which level of government do you think affects our daily life the most? Give it a guess. Any of the
Federal?
group? Wait for others to guess. Okay, so the correct answer is provincial. The provincial government is responsible for many essential services, including healthcare, housing, social services, workplace safety, public transit, education, highway, environmental protection, last but not least, policing, and public safety. So there are many of them. It's important that if you're eligible to vote, please go out and vote, since it affects us the most. In this slide, we have provided you with a summary of what each government is responsible for, which you can review at your own leisure when we email you a copy of this presentation. Make sure to click the heading for informative video on this topic. Now, it is important that if you're going to vote, you make an informed voting choice. So how can we make informed decisions? First, you'll need to identify what issue are most important to you, like housing, transit, healthcare, etc. Then, look at each party's platform, which is available on the party website, and review what they're proposing. You also need to look at who is running to represent you in your riding and their qualification. You can also reach out to your friends, neighbor, and other trusted community leaders who know about issues. You may get clarifications on which candidate are better suited to address your key concerns. Once all that is done, you can choose a party that closely aligns with your value and priorities. Now, as a resident, how can you help to make a difference? You can do many things, but here we are outlining just a few simple things you could do. So we could remind our family and friends to vote, share voting information on social media, help someone to get to the voting location. For example, if you have an elderly, a relative, or neighbor, reach out to them and offer help. You can also volunteer with local group to share information. For example, this picture is from our group outreach back in 2022, where 42 Voices volunteers set up a vote pop-up table at the Malvern Library and asked residents to vote for their top issues. You can also vote by mail or at the advance poll and encourage others to do so as well. Moving on to the next slide. Another great way is to get to know your party leader and their policies by watching the leaders debate on TV or radio. Sometimes you can watch them on YouTube as well. There was one yesterday, and we have included the YouTube link in the slides. It's a great way to understand the personality and values of party leaders and their reality of their proposed policies. Now we're going to take a 2-minute break, and then I'm going to have Schwab talk about the political parties and the candidates. 2-minute breaks, everyone.